guys, it's Dom here, just had a wonderful chat with Michael Evans, talking about X-RL7, the wonderful animated project which has a bunch of my mates in it, in the sort of industrial rock, electronic sphere, no pun intended. Yeah, an incredible collaborative project, great animation, great people, great voices. Check out X-RL7, go subscribe to them on Patreon, and hear about what Michael, the creator, has to say about his creative process, about what it was like to pull it all together, musical influences, and more. So yeah, thank you so much to Michael for his time. Please go support X-RL7. It's a great creative project, great animation, great music, great everything. Just really sparked me, really interested me. So I'm really buzzed with this, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting us, and yeah, we'll see you soon. Take it easy. Just set it on record so we can kick off. But yeah, I'm fascinated by your work in progress and your history, because you have not only have you started this project, you've also been in a band yourself. You've done a bunch of things, in your own time and your own history. So I guess, in your own words, before I start talking about X-RL7 and MiXE and those projects that you've done, in your own words, tell me about your background.
Sure. So basically, I'm Mike Evans, by the way. Hi. So originally I was in, I suppose I'll start right back at the beginning. My dad has been a big musical influence on me throughout my entire life, because he was in a band called Albert Monk, and he played with quite a few cool bands in the 70s scene, like Genesis and Fleetwood Mac and people like that. And so music's always been around me, sort of growing up. But I picked up a guitar myself in the year 2000, and the thing that turned me onto that was Korn, the whole new metal buzz.
Man, I love that.
It was amazing. The album Issues actually just blew my mind at the time. I remember, what put me onto that was there was an anime at the time for Street Fighter 2, the anime, and during the credits they had Blind at the end, and it just said that, "Oh, are you ready?" And I was blown away. So it was in the days where you had to literally go to the CD shop to get CDs, and I phoned up my local HMV and said, "Hey, you got any Korn?" And the guy was like, "Oh, do you mean Issues?" And I didn't know what he meant. I thought he meant, do I need to issue it? Do I need to buy it? What do you mean? I just said, yeah, a little teenager here. And he was like, okay, yeah, I've got it for you. Come get it. And I went to the shop, and he was shocked at how young I was, I think. And it was actually an album called Issues. So it wasn't the one with Blind on it, but that album just blew me away. Just dark, angsty, the 7-string guitars, amazing. And that set me on my path of various bands. Some of the more significant ones are one called Broken Butterfly X, which is similarly in that vein, sort of dark metal with lots of guitar effects. Had a female vocalist called Sa, who was a Korean vocalist, and she was had a very distinctive voice and added a lot of drama to the songs and life. And the next most significant one would be MiXE1, which started in 2010. As a solo project initially, then Lee, one of my best friends who voices some characters in X-RL7, joined on guitar, and I've basically been in that project since then, doing electronic rock, gradually getting better at songwriting, meeting people in the scene. And a lot of people that are in the show initially are people I met from MiXE1 and playing shows and just networking in that electronic industrial sort of scene. And that's kind of led to X-RL7 having a lot of those experiences.
Yeah, I mean that is fascinating, and I think because I discovered X-RL7 through our mutual friend Avi, and I was just blown away by the quality of the animation, by the fact that I was surprised when I found out you were based in the UK, Mike, and so tell me about the process. We're going to go more into your personal stuff in a minute, but just the process of developing X-RL7, because you've got a lot of notable American musicians in there. You've had members of MSI, multiple Monuments, another one, multiple renowned artists. What is the collaborative process like? How have you done this? Because it's like it's like an industrial rock kind of animated opera kind of thing. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's you're right. It's funny. There are a lot of American artists. I'm not sure why that is. I think it's just because a love of American music, and there's obviously some British artists in there as well, like Mikey Autrey, who plays the Duke, who's the main antagonist of the series. But yeah, something about the American scene that's very attractive, and a lot of my favorite bands are there. But the process is it's a long one, dude. It basically starts with for an episode generally. It's I'll take you through the flow of events, I suppose.
Please do, yeah.
So it starts with the script. Basically, open up WordPad and just coming up with stuff, and that's the fastest part. Just coming up with a script, speaking it out loud, because I've learned that if you just write stuff down, sometimes you send it to people and it doesn't quite. you miss that you've repeated a few words, or there's some weird anomalies. So I basically write that by speaking it out to myself alone in my room, making sure my wife's not around, and sending that off to the voice actors. And a key component is the featured artist, because I will write the songs for that episode kind of with the featured artist in mind. So if I'm working with someone like, for example, Daniel Graves of Aesthetic Perfection, I'm thinking, okay, Daniel Graves, massive melodic, amazing voice, does a lot of cool fry screams. So I want to incorporate that. So when I'm writing the song, I will obviously write how I would write, but I will have these things in my mind, and kind of it would be geared towards that person. And so once I have, it's interesting because I usually write the song before the person's confirmed. And so I'll have the song and I'll have a script. I'll send it to the featured artist. And once they're happy, then boom, I'll send it out to everyone else. And that's worked out amazingly so far. Although this year, there's been a couple of times where an artist has agreed and they've disappeared. And it's like, oh man, now I've got a song like where I need a specific type of vocalist. What do I do? And have to find someone else. But typically that's how it's worked so far. And once the voiceover comes in, I will edit that up, get the best takes. There's usually 3 lines of each take, 3 takes of each line, sorry. I'll do some nice editing on that. Then animation. And that's the longest, most tedious process. I mean, it's fun, man. I love it. But at the same time, it's with any creative medium, there's a grind element to it as well, right? And yeah, that'll take a while, a few weeks to animate, and then edit that up with sound effects and things, and then get the song mixed, and voila, you've got an episode and a song.
Yes, it is amazing, the process. I mean, so when you are sending this stuff over, do they just send you the voice? Do they send you the voice notes back? Like, how is it? What is the process for them on the other side of it? What do you require in terms of quality control from the artist? Because again, they've got their own projects, they've got their own schedules. What do they need to do on the other side when you're pitching this stuff to them?
Yeah, and it's interesting because sometimes I don't 100% know what they sound like, their talking voices, or some of them speaking in English. So it's a bit of a gamble sometimes with some of the artists. You just hope that they're going to be good and you can guide them if there's any issues. But magically, everyone in the series has been really, really phenomenal. It must be something to do with being a singer and performing and playing a character. But what I will ask from the artists is if they can provide a single WAV file of all the dialogue of their character, but 3 takes of each line. So they'll send me, like, hi, just to give me some options. And then I'll put that into my music software and just sort of cut up the best take. Sometimes I'm literally cutting together words from different takes because it just seems like that's got the strongest part, and that part. And that's it really. That's what they send. Just 3 takes of each line, boom. Oh, okay. But in terms of the music, there's only 1 take. It's like their best take that they prefer, and doubles of the chorus and stuff like that.
Okay. I mean, it's again fascinating to get this insight into the process. In terms of the animation, then, because it's really cool. Again, it's got that cyberpunk vibe to it. A lot of people love it. The reception's been great. Where did you learn how to animate? And again, the painstaking process. How do you stay motivated when you're trying to build these episodes?
Thanks, man. Can I just say on stream, I love your hair, by the way.
Thank you, man. I appreciate
Awesome.
it. I love yours too.
Rocking the blonde.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, animation, man. It's YouTube videos,
Okay.
YouTube
Wow.
tutorials.
Okay.
It's I think it's like it's interesting because I've always been handy at drawing since I was a kid. I've kind of my observation on talent in life is I think there's certain things that you're born with that you're particularly strong at and you can excel at quite fast. And there's other things you can excel at, but a little bit slower, but you can still get there. But for some reason, for me, drawing has been something just in my DNA for whatever reason. And picking up XR, well, basically what happened was, backtracking a little bit, X-RL7 started out as a game initially, like a point and click adventure game. It was kind of an homage to, you know, things like Monkey Island and Space Quest and those old 90s games. And I was working on that for a while, and it basically dawned upon me, this is going to take me years to complete, like on my lonesome. And I put it to the side, and I was like, well, what else can I do? How else can I express myself outside of music? And I thought animation. And so I basically kind of took a risk and bought a graphics tablet and got a copy of Toon Boom, which is the animation software I use. And the graphics tablet was not supported technically by Toon Boom. So I was like, okay, well, let's see if this works. It's a cheap one, see what happens. And it did. And so I looked at some basic tutorials online of how to use Toon Boom. And there was one particular video I saw where it talks about with animation, the concept of anticipation and overshooting, where, you know, if you're about to like have a movement like that, you'll have a little bit of anticipation going the opposite way, and then you'll get to a point and go a little bit past it and pull back. That's something I use a lot in the most of the episodes. And from there, it just kind of experimenting, it's somehow worked out. And I spent a year doing animating in a YouTube channel called Project Anything with a couple of people that are in the series. They voiced some characters, and after a year of that, it was like, okay, I think I can do X-RL7 as an animated show now. And yeah, so it basically took a year of learning, trial and error, and here we are. But I will say, actually, like, because I had a version of episode 1 in like late 2018, like December, like 2018, and the show didn't go live till July 2020. So it took quite a while for it to go live. It was like my little secret for a while. But the cool thing about that was, as I developed it and I got to a certain point, and you naturally improve, I was like, oh god, the old stuff looks a little bit, it could be better now. So I'd go back and like tweak that a little bit. So it was kind of good that it didn't just go out straight away. But yeah, like anything, it's just trial and error, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, that's exciting. I think it's we have work with a lot of young people who are aspiring animators and things like that, and it'd be inspiring to note that you perhaps weren't, you didn't do it as a full-time job or anything. You literally learned to do it, and the quality of what you've done with X-RL7 is just brilliant. I was blown away by it when I first looked at it, and I was half expecting you to tell me you were, that you worked in animation or you worked in, TV or something. So I appreciate that, the graft that you've put in and the hard work you've put in to get to where you are with it.
Thank you, sir.
There's two strands to this next question, and one's going to sound a little bit confrontational, so I do apologize. The first part of it is, what's in it for the artists? Because these artists are notable, like we've said, they are the people you've known, so they might be your friends and things like that. But what is it when you pitch it to people? Some of them you've never met, some of them you have met, some of them you've never met. You're like, I'm doing this animated show. You've obviously got a portfolio there, so they can see why they want to be involved. But what is the pitching process like when you reach out to an artist, and do artists now reach out to you?
I feel you, Dom. Yeah, what's in it for me? There have been a couple of occasions where artists reach out to me, but my angle with it, how I pitch it, is I think basically how it started was, before I was originally reaching out to people that I did know, and when it got to, I had like 4 or 5 episodes, I put together a little trailer of just to demo it, and I started reaching out to people like Babic, or I think Daniel Graves was one of the early people, Rob Kersey of Psychostick, people like that. And the way I framed it was that I think they could see the potential of it, because it's something quite unique. Like the concept of it is something I can't really think of much else like it. There's this stuff, Metalocalypse maybe, but there's something quite unique about the series. And it turns out a lot of the voice actors I approached, the artists, the vocalists I approached, actually were very interested in getting into voice acting. So here I come along with this kind of opportunity for an indie series. And I think it was something quite appealing to them. And because there's a musical component as well, I think that really helped kind of seal the deal, as it were. But as you get more people involved and the more awesome names which start piling up, I think it becomes even more attractive to be part of the community. And it also helps, it's kind of a mutual thing now where you kind of expose each other's audience to each other, you know? Like, so there's some artists that have never heard of X-RL7, some audiences, and some of the X-RL7 audiences never heard of this artist. And admittedly, a lot of them are a lot bigger than X-RL7, but there is a degree of finding new projects and new art. So I hope that kind of answers it.
It does. And I guess the next phase of that question is, what's in it for you? Because you work as well. You obviously have your own musical project, MiXE1, which we'll talk about. But why do you do it? Because again, I know there's a Patreon out there. You do have patrons there. People can publicly support you. We'll make sure that those links are in the description of the video. But Mike, what is in it for you? Why do you continue to do it? And what is the motivation there for you? The mission statement, really, of X-RL7. Yeah.
Well, personally, I have to create. It's just simple as that. There's at its core, I'm, for whatever reason, I'm a creative person, and for my own mental health, I need to create. I went through the darkest time of my life, man, was a year where I wasn't able to do that. I've never been so depressed and not myself. I just need to do it. And for whatever reason, I just need to express myself in this way. And I fortunately am able to do it in lots of awesome ways. But X-RL7 is a combination of all of my passions and all of my interests. So it's the ultimate creative project for me. I mean, it's got, of course, music. It's got comedy, pixel art, social commentary, relationship stuff. So many elements to it that I love all in one place. And for me, it's what I love doing. It's like I have to do it and I love it. And I'm going to keep doing it as long as I can.
Good. Well, I mean, very, very excited, and thank you for reaching out to us as well. Because again, I'd only checked it out a few days prior, and then I got an email from you. So it's lovely to sort of see, how you are building this. If you could take me through, then, for example, the method is out there with Avi and a few others there. From Genesis, then you mentioned obviously you start with a notepad, and you're doing the dialogue line. From start to completion, what is that process of an episode? What process do you have to go through, and what's the time scale like?
Oh yeah. So I normally give people, like, by the way, I love your interviews, by the way. Your one with Sammy Dole, Christopher Hall, fantastic dude. You asked some very, very, very nice questions, very different questions. I like that. So timeline wise, let me think about that, because I've learned to try to plan episodes quite a long time in advance now, or a few months, because, musicians, we're a flaky bunch and people go on tour and disappear for, weeks at a time. So I think from having the script, that episode's interesting, actually, how that came about. Slight tangent here.
Please do, yeah.
So basically in another episode, there's an artist named Nikki Simmons, who's this amazing female vocalist. She's got this insane range. She's incredible. And she voiced a couple of characters. And there was an episode 18, where it was kind of a parody of YouTube, where they had we basically had people doing covers of the existing X-RL7 songs and kind of interviews and kind of just a nice tongue-in-cheek, loving take on what you find on music YouTube, you know. And she did a cover of one of our songs called Gatekeeper. And she was actually recording the vocals of it on her Twitch stream at the time. And I popped on there to sort of represent and say hi and stuff. And there was this one guy there named Dean Wilson who was in the chat, and he happened to know Andy Cizek, and he was a Patreon of his and a bit closer to him. And he was saying, yeah, man, you should reach out to Andy. And I was like, yeah, definitely I would. And I think I actually might have shot Andy an email and I never got a reply, and it was, you know, just forgot about it. But Dean, basically on Twitter, Andy had posted something about wanting to get into voice acting, and Dean tagged X-RL7. It's like, dude, you know, hook a brother up or something. And I was like, yeah, man, definitely. And Andy messaged me, and that's how we connected, right, from Twitter via Dean, via Nikki. So it's pretty awesome, man. Yeah. Which I understand is how you know a lot of people, just through lots of connected webs of people, right?
Yeah, the power of social media. Yeah, so it sounds a lot less complicated than it looks. You know, for me, I was expecting these to be, you know, extensive process. And obviously, you mentioned there's a lot of hours there that go into the animation. I mean, what kind of a toll? Not to get too deep, but what kind of a toll does developing each episode take on you? Because again, you were, from what I can understand, you are the central hub for the voices, you know, for the voice audio coming in, for the animation, for the promotion, for the Patreon, all that stuff. So what kind of a toll does building each episode take on you? It sounds like you enjoy it, but it's also sounds quite intense.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of proverbial hats to wear that get a bit heavy sometimes. It's well, it's tricky being a one-man project because it's more than just a music project. It's more than just managing music and social media. It's also managing animating, you know, and all this stuff. It does require quite a bit of mental energy, I would say, because animation in particular, dude, it can be a grind. It can be fun, but there's elements to it, like animating little minute leg movements, and you know, it's a lot of stuff that I've learned to kind of trick my brain into getting motivated to, because the human tendency is, if something's going to take a long time, we're just like, screw that, you know, I'll watch Netflix, I'll do this instead. You know, and like it's really hard to get into that mindset of a more longer term project. And particularly when you've got a scene, like I'll open up a scene, put the voiceover in, and 8,000 frames. Oh man, you know, and so it really does become the Shia LaBeouf kind of just do it thing, where you got to really kind of force yourself to do it. So there's a psychological element where sometimes I look at a scene and think, oh man, it's going to take a while, but then you kind of just get over that barrier, that wall of starting, just do something. And it comes together magically, and it's really beautiful how things come together a lot faster than you expect, you know, in my experience, just from starting and putting the work in. But yeah, it weighs heavy because it takes a long time. And I think one of the big psychological hurdles for me as well is because in the world we live in today, you know, people want things now, and it's that oversaturated thing of like, you may spend ages on a song or a single or an episode and put it out like today. In 2 weeks, people are onto the next thing, you know, and that kind of plays on my mind, where I'm like, with animation, it takes a while for it to come together. So it kind of weighs on the fact of like, oh God, I need to get stuff ready for the audience. You know, I need to get something out, which is why we've got a few side series now on the channel, which help things moving. But dude, I would love to have a real life character like Alfie, the band manager, who could manage my social media and sort merch and do all this other stuff, because the weight of it, you know, as one guy, it's a lot of responsibility, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how long, so per episode, what are we talking in terms of timeline? So like, you know, how much time does it take? You know, because obviously you're putting these episodes out on a YouTube channel, thousands of people are engaging with it, and it's all lovely and great, and people are going, this is amazing. Like I was, you know, I was loving the tunes, I was loving the quality. But how long does it take you? Like what are we talking in terms of you know, start of an episode to a finish of an episode, or, you know, in terms of time?
Thank you, sir. It's probably once I've got everything in, once I've got all the audio in, then about 6 to 8 weeks, I would say, of animation. As I say, once I've got the voiceover stuff in, because that's the tricky part. One other element of it is chasing people down for files, where it's it's an interesting balance, man. Because like I've had it myself, being on the other end of that, where like, you know, someone was trying to get a vocal off me or something, and I hadn't done it yet, and they were like, just every week, sometimes 2 times a week, you know, how's it going? Have you done it? Have you done it? Have you done it? Done it? I try not to do that. I try to give the artist space, but at the same time, you do need to, you know, dude, you got a file, dude, how you doing, dude, you got, you know, it's a bit of a balancing act. But I would say, yeah, 6 to 8 weeks to answer your question, Dom.
Okay. Moving in a slightly different direction now, because obviously we've got to address the success in terms of streaming that X-RL7 has had. You over 1 million streams now collectively on these songs. How do you feel about that? I mean, there's an extension to that question, which you'll know I like to ask, which is how you define success. But I guess we'll leave that one till the end as a direct question. So I'll just ask you about the streams and X-RL7 as an entity that has, you know, reached a lot of people. How do you feel about the success streaming wise?
It's very humbling, very, very humbling. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around that a number that big, isn't it? It's a big number. I feel very, very blessed and very, very grateful that so many people are enjoying the series and the songs. It's interesting because I'm under no illusion as well. Like the 2 big songs, which are The Show featuring Blue Stahli and Heart Shaped Hole featuring Rawrb and Babic, those are the ones which have the hugest numbers. And I'm sure them being a part of it, the artist, is a big part of why that's so big, you know. But at the same time, you know, if the song was no good, people wouldn't be coming back. So I'm just happy that it's reaching so many people, and so many people are enjoying it. And it's good to remember that sometimes, because as I said, with the kind of like, okay, I've got to get content out, sometimes, you know, you can be really focused on the new thing and forget all the good things that have happened so far. You know what I mean? So sometimes I'll take a moment out like now and reflect and be like, yeah, that's actually quite a big number in it. You know, so it is nice, it is humbling, it is beautiful, dude. So yeah.
Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you.
And I guess, like, you know, in terms of the building the songs, you know, you've got other people on there, you know. Now, to what extent was the MiXE1 and the stuff you were doing solo, did that inform you when you were writing this stuff? Because obviously there's the animation and there's the series and the dialogue and the comedy and all that, and then there's these banging songs that you're putting out commercially as well that complement the series. So did your experience as a solo artist in MiXE1 directly inform what you've done with X-RL7 in terms of a musical outlet? Because again, now it's not just the series and the animated series which people can find on YouTube, but there's also a streaming avenue where these songs are coming out, and, you know, people can access them that way, if you understand where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, MiXE1, I think all the projects had an effect on it, and it was interesting because towards the end of what we were doing with MiXE1, I kind of reached this point of almost writer's block, where I didn't really know what I wanted to say anymore in that project. Or there were certain things I kind of wanted to do, but I felt weird doing it within that entity, or saying things which are more social commentary-esque and lumping the other band member into that as well. You know what I mean? So starting X-RL7, yes, like basically I'm channeling a lot of experience from all my previous bands, and using, just I've become a better songwriter because of that. But the beautiful thing about X-RL7 is, because I'm writing as characters, it allows me to go to these lyrical and musical places that I've only just dabbled with previously, or that I wouldn't go to in the other projects, you know, because it's very freeing to write as someone. And that's the big motivating creative catalyst for me, is when I have a character, a theme that I want to get across, and how that filters through the character and whatever the style is of that fictional band. And I write all the songs. Something I learned towards the end of MiXE1 is to write from acoustic guitar, because that's where you've got the core song, right? That's where you've got the chord structure, the riffs, the vocal melodies. you've got the core song there, and once you've got that, you can then transpose that to the digital world and add electric guitars and synths quite easily. But yeah, it's just the experience of the other bands came into play. Like I'm channeling some stuff from really old bands to write some of the darker songs, and there's some lyrical places. Like this is like in MiXE1, man. I always had this vibe of like, even though some of the lyrics might be dark, there's always this sense of empowerment, or we will overcome this, that sort of vibe. So it's interesting writing a song like Heart-Shaped Hole, which is a bit more on the kind of woe is me side.
Yeah.
And in a way, it was like, I would never have written that in MiXE1, not those lyrics. But because I was playing to the character, it was very freeing and gave me permission to access, a certain vernacular, certain styles. And it's continued to be very, very freeing in that way.
Yeah, good. It's just amazing because there's lots of strands to X-RL7, and going back to MiXE1, and the band, because you did tour, you played shows with that band. I think a lot of people, this question might be an obvious one. Could you do X-RL7 live? Because to me, it's an entirely digital entity right now. But is there plans to bring everyone together for some kind of super show somewhere? Anything like that?
Yeah, you're not the first person to suggest that, man. It's a couple of voice actors have mentioned it, and I would love to eventually, if we get to a point where we're big enough and it's financially not going to leave us in ruin, to do like a couple of shows. I'd love to have like a live band and play some of the shows with. Of course, we'll never get all of the same people like in the live setup, or everyone's in different countries,
Mm-hmm.
But we could have like a live setup with some of the people, maybe from the UK, and do some stuff then. But at the minute, right now, I don't think it's feasible. I think it's more better to grow the series until we get like more significantly bigger, I think, because you kind of need to see the whole package, I think. One of the artists has suggested bringing it live with almost as a stage show with dialogue and speaking between different people. And it's a nice idea for the future. It's a nice idea, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you miss playing live? Do you miss that sort of aspect of it? Because again, what you're doing is very visual, and it's exciting. It's exciting for people to consume. From all over the world, people are consuming X-RL7. But as you know from your own experience, performing live brings a new level of excitement. So do you miss that side of your personality, or your I guess because you spent a lot of time in band.
Yeah, not as much as you might expect. There is a certain buzz from playing live, of course. But yeah, I think like being a vocalist of a band at the time was very stressful for me, being an introverted kind of guy. So I think I was more comfortable being the guitarist in the previous projects. So on a guitar capacity, that's pretty fun. But as a vocalist, mixed, because there's times where it's fun, but introverted English dude, But I certainly do channel some of that into the series. In fact, I remember like the character of Omega, the lead character. When I was animating him playing live in episode 1, it was kind of almost like the guy I wish I was on stage. I mean, like just fearless and just like doing all these motions, just going at it. And I kind of channeled some of that into the series. So it's been a while since I played live. So at the minute, if I played live tomorrow, I'd probably get the bug, and I'd probably, just want to keep doing it. But at the minute, I don't miss it too much.
Okay. Thank you for your honesty there. Just because it's interesting, because again, you've got many strings to your bow. So I wanted to ask.
It's a good phrase.
Whether that was still a part of a part of who you are or who you wanted to be. MiXE1 is finished now, right? So, like, is there? I mean, I suppose you've already answered it a little bit. Would you consider doing another project, another band, another thing, or do you have too much on your plate? It sounds like you got a little bit too much on your plate at the moment as it is.
It's funny you say that because I am kind of dabbling with something with the guitarist of MiXE1, Lee, who because before MiXE1, we kind of dabbled with something where I was on guitar, he was on vocals, and we kind of slightly casually sort of bringing that back for next year, but in a very casual way because dude, the Pixels are calling, the Pixels love my time.
Yeah,
so but you know, I'd never say never. You know, I think especially at this point, like as I get closer and closer to 40, I get a bit more existential and more like, yeah, we should put this music out, you know.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
For 4 or 5 more questions then, man. I think, you know, it's a slightly different you know, sort of slant to the interview. Because of what you do, it's quite inspirational for, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of young people. Part of our work is working with young people to create careers and opportunities within the creative industries. And obviously animation is a huge, you know, it's a huge skill set to have. And I wanted to ask you about some of the realities. If you were going to advise any young person who wanted to get into animation, maybe is inspired by X-RL7, there's 2 strands to this question, by the way. One is the animation, one is the music side. What would be your advice to any young person who's interested in animation, maybe inspired by what you do, who wants to get into it? Some of the realities that you'd like people to know.
In terms of the practical element of actually making it happen, or some kind of business side of it.
I would say mostly practical, but maybe one business tip as well.
Okay. Well, business.
Two practical, or maybe 2 or 3 practical ones and 1 business one.
Okay. Well, I'll start with the business because I'm terrible at that with the animation because lots of people have asked me to do music videos based off X-RL7, but I've always been like, I'd rather focus my time, you know, on X-RL7, build that empire rather than, you know, take 6 to 8 weeks out, you know, and not, you know, on something else. But okay, practical tips. Okay, I would say don't underestimate how long it takes because, oh God, it does take a while. And I think so many people have really great creative ideas, but they underestimate the headspace that you have to get in, the work you have to do to make it happen. Because for a single episode of X-RL7 or you know, any creative project, there's always elements which are a bit of a drag. And I've said that a few times, but everything, there's so much fun with creative stuff, but you have to put the work in, dude. You have to put the work in. So I would say patience and YouTube tutorials. There's YouTube tutorials for everything.
Right.
Absolutely everything. And take your time. Don't beat yourself up over your old work because it gets better. It gets better. It's fascinating watching, because I loosely mentioned this series called Project Anything I did. There was a series called Sparkball that we did, which was based on a fictional sport, kind of like tennis with Tronny type balls, and there was this conspiracy and a big story around it.
That sounds like fun.
It was all right. It was all right. But you look at episode 1, there was 5 episodes, and just it looks terrible to me now. It looks atrocious. Episode 2 started looking better. Episode 3 is like, okay, now we're talking. And so you just kind of have to accept that anything you do, you're gonna get better over time, and you're not gonna be a pro straight away. So it's just patience, not beating yourself up, putting the work in. I think that'll do it.
Okay, all right. What about musically? Now, the success question comes up, as you'll know. I quite like asking, you know, musicians of various backgrounds and abilities this. Now, you have obviously created a successful YouTube series. You know, you've obviously played shows live. You've you know, communicated to people all around the world with X-RL7 and your previous projects. So how do you define success as a musician and as a person? And are they 2 different things?
Yeah, I knew this question was coming, but it's still a tough question. Well, I think it's tricky. Success as a mind state, I think, as well. I view the series as successful in that it's reached so many people, and that there's people all around the world, and it's brought a community of people together. And there's some amazing people that view the series who I interact with regularly on places like Discord and people that do amazing fan art, and working with these amazing artists and being part of that community, being part of that network is a beautiful thing. So on one level, I see that as very successful and fulfilling, that I am able to put stuff out and people enjoy it. So I feel very humbled and validated by that. I think that the level of success I am aiming for, but have not yet achieved, is not having like millions and millions of like pounds or anything like that, or dollars, but literally just being at the point where I can do my creative things full time. Don't need to be rich or anything like that, just doing them full time. And that, because that's what makes me happy. So I guess the end result is success is happiness, I suppose. Okay. There you go. That's a bit rhetorical.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds good. And happiness for you is working full time creatively.
Yeah, expressing myself creatively, and that's my true happiness. That and cool. It's just part of my DNA.
My fingers are crossed for you, because I really do think you deserve it. I'm fascinated by where this is going, and that does inform my next question. Then, it goes back to the mission statement thing a little bit. What do you want for X-RL7? Do you want a stage show? Do you want a live stage show, or do you just want it to continue to reach millions of people? Do you want more patron backers? What is it that you want for X-RL7? I'm not going to say in the next 5 years, because I can hate that question, but in the future for X-RL7, what is it, and what does it look like for you?
All the above. I think the answer is my main focus is online. So YouTube, just the thing I look to most is YouTube subscribers, if I'm very, very honest. And I'd love to see that number go up over time. And of course, Patreons and more, it's connecting with more people. I think that's the thing, the beauty of connecting with your art. But my main focuses are online, really. Just the live stuff is like a nice to have, but my priority is like just getting more content out, more new stuff. And I think as well, like, because the series has so many elements to it, there's so many things I want to tell with the characters. There's that subtle, social commentary aspect as well, which I feel is important to express in the work as well. But yeah, I think just pumping out more content is the answer. Pumping out a lot more content and reaching more people.
Okay, brilliant. Well, Mike, a couple more to finish then. Again, I'm not only fascinated by the project itself, but I'm fascinated by you, in terms of how you manage your time. What is a typical day like? I mean, this is the dangerous question for the creative, isn't it? Because the answer probably is there isn't one. But I'm going to ask you anyway. What do you do? How do you structure your day? What is a typical day like for you, if there is one?
Yeah, well, fortunately, like many people know, I work from home, which is with my day job, which is really, really handy, because that just makes my time a lot more flexible. But yeah, typically it's like, Monday to Friday, doing the day job. Afternoon, 4:30 onwards, then it depends what's going on. My wife, she works in different shifts. So tonight, for example, she's working a afternoon evening shift, so I have the place to myself, and that's very good for creativity. So I will I would do a lot of work, dude. After my day job finishes, I'm right at X-RL7. Try to have a break after regularly, but I usually take like an hour out every now and then to chill out and watch Netflix or something. And then I'll cap it and be like, okay, right, stop watching other people's stuff, do your own thing, make it happen. And it's just a lot of work. Tonight, one of the dudes, the guy who voices Alfie, the band manager, is coming over to record some stuff, so that's happening tonight. And after that, I'll probably be editing his stuff and then animating a little bit more. It's a lot to fit in. But it's the attitude, man. You got to get it done, or nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And you mentioned that Netflix there and things like that. Well, what are some of your inspirations then? When you're unwinding, think outside of music. So your movies, TV shows, video games. And obviously there are. I know you've done a series where you talk about the inspiration behind what you
Yeah.
do. But for in your own words, what are the things that you love? What are the things that motivate you outside of work? Things that really interest you and enhance your life, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I watch a lot of. The thing is, a lot of stuff I watch isn't really a direct influence from X-RL7 these days. It's stuff with my wife, so it's more cutesy things.
Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly, yeah. Sometimes some more serious stuff, but one thing I really enjoy watching is let's plays of games.
Yeah.
I used to love playing games, and basically a little tidbit about my life is one of the things I was really proud of when I was a kid is that I could type really fast. I was so proud of that, and I could impress people with how fast I could type, in school and stuff. But that had a drawback in my later life, where when I started my day job, after a year or so, I got repetitive strain injury.
Yeah.
So how I wish I could tell young Mike, just type a little bit slower. But because of that, I stopped playing games for like a number of years and to very limited amounts. So now I just watch let's plays and things. And oddly enough, it doesn't really affect playing guitar or drawing so much. It's more just typing, and it's a lot better than it was. But I kind of got into the habit of not playing games. So instead, I just watch people play them on YouTube and just enjoy the story and reminisce and being like, oh, that's how you complete that game. So to be honest, that's the games, music, various keeping up to date with what's going on. And I can't really think of any modern movies straight off. The last one I watched is called Under the Silver Lake, which is a great film with Andrew Garfield in, and it's got a bit of a music conspiracy vibe to it. So it's right up my street.
I'll have to check that out, man. Absolutely. Well, thank you for giving me that insight into your life, Mike. And I think, again, to finish off, obviously people can support X-RL7 on Patreon. But I don't want to put too much in your mouth as we finish off. So is there anything you feel like we've missed? Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to promote? Anything you want to say as we conclude today?
I just want to say that for anyone that's enjoying the series and wants to help it continue and help more things happen, then Patreon is a really great way of supporting the show. It's a nice, consistent way, and it literally does the support does literally go towards mixing and mastering, and it all goes to something. And there's also a ton of awesome rewards. And if you want to hear any of the songs with my original guide vocal, it's all there, and lots of cool behind the scenes and things. But really just sharing the series with your friends, listening to the music on Spotify, Bandcamp, every single thing helps. And don't be afraid to reach out and say hi and that you're enjoying the show. We've got a Discord server, which is a really friendly place. We've got over 100 members not long ago. So there's a really great community of people that enjoy the show. So I would say, if you enjoy it, get involved and feel free to say hi.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to be keeping tabs on you. Thank you so much for reaching out to me, because I love what you're doing. I think there's it's a really exciting time for you. And I know you've got a creative evening planned, so I'll let you go. But thank you so much for your time, mate.
Much love, dude. Thanks a lot, Dom. You're awesome.